So we're coming up on day 2 of Campcraft, uh, Advanced Survival. Again, this is a 5-day course. You know, we have no watches, no cell phones. All the stars are gone. We've been out here quite a while. I'm anticipating sunrise soon. I got a late start or out here because I didn't get all my deliverables done quickly enough for me. So by the time I got everything finished, Jason brought me out here, dropped me off at my designated spot. I'm the only person here, and it is pitch black. Pitch black. Couldn't see a thing. I took like 2 steps over and instantly hit a log. He kind of told me my coordinates. This is my 7th class here this year, and I've also been to 2 sand shoots, and then I was here as a helper also for 1 class. So you're looking at, I've been here 10 times in the last 18 months, so I know the property pretty well. There's a creek right behind you, and down the creek is where we did that knife-only sand shoot. That was when we packed up and switched locations. That's where we ended up. So I kind of know where I'm at. Can't find nothing. There was, I think there was 8 of us in the class total. 2 guys tapped out, didn't get their bow drills, among other deliverables. I'm not exactly sure what happened with it. There was 2 finished after me. 1 got dropped off before me, and I'm down in a hollow right here, and I can hear the wind blowing, the trees above me, but I'm pretty well protected right here. He was up right in the middle of it, and he was in the same situation I was. He was in the woods about, maybe 15 minutes before me, and he was up on the top of a windy knoll, and it's really hard to navigate with with no headlamp. I saw a piece of Tyvek tarp, the white shiny that I kind of noticed, in the headlamps of this buggy coming down. I'm sure that was planted for us. Who knows what else is out here. But I grabbed that right away, and just walking over to get it when the buggy drove away, I was walking into branches, and I was afraid I was going to poke my eye. So I started going the other way, the direction towards the old camp, because I know that there's resources there that I can use, hopefully. And again, that's when I started hitting logs and stuff. So I could see a silhouette of a stump. I set my gear up on a high stump so I could locate it. When it's dark out and you've got no light, it's critical to manage your gear properly. I actually lost my stocking cap for a little bit. I took it off when I was rearranging stuff, and it was maybe an hour before I found it. I wasn't looking steady for an hour, but I would starting to get colder. I started moving stuff around, looking, and I actually just kind of felt it. But yeah, the one guy tapped, a buddy of mine tapped, that was on the windy knoll up there. It was a bad situation for him. I feel real bad for him. They came and checked on us 3 times last night to make sure we were okay. It was cold. It was very cold. You could see your breath. And again, they dropped us off here with the clothes on our backs. So, I've got a wool base layer on, intermediate weight. I got Arctic muck boots, 2 pairs of wool socks, Carhartt pants. I got a wool upper base layer, just a flannel shirt on with a wool vest over top of that, a wool sweater, and then my boreal shirt. And that's it. So I used that Tyvek. I kind of was laying on the side of a hill, and I kept shimmying and moving around until I found some spot I wouldn't slide down on the Tyvek. Kicking stuff out from under you, you can't see a dang thing. The second time he came around, I don't know. I have no idea. Maybe it was midnight, maybe it was 11. I think they were just checking our resolve to see how dedicated we were to this. And that's when Jason brought out a headlamp that I'm shining at me now, and he brought a wool blanket. You know, it's like a twin size blend wool blanket, but it helped a lot. It helped a lot last night. It was very cold. No chance of fire. You know, like I said before, we had no matches, no lighter, no ferro rod with us, and we get dropped off. I've got char in my pocket that we made up top of the hill. I've got my bow drill set with me, but my immediate plan is going to be to walk the creek and look for a hard rock that I can strike my carbon knife and get a spark. So right now my priorities for the second day of class, now we get deliverables daily. I have no idea what he's going to have us do, but my personal goals, I've got to get a fire, I've got to get water boiled. You know, there's a creek right behind me. I'm not going to dehydrate today. I'm slightly dehydrated already, but I prefer to filter that water so I don't worry about getting sick on like the last day of class or something. And then, so once I get my fire, water, I got to get up some kind of shelter. It didn't rain last night. A lot of stuff was wet with the dew. I have a oilskin watch coat, and I laid that over me. That seemed to help quite a bit. But I got to get some kind of shelter up. It's supposed to rain later in the week. And another big thing is I need to get a mattress of some type. You know, I was laying right on the ground, just with that Tyvek underneath me as a moisture barrier, so the conduction was killing me. I had to get up a couple times. I was, you know, walking up and down the hill, doing jumping jacks, running in place, trying to get my heart rate up to warm up. It was pretty cold last night. So it'll be a lot more bearable if I have a mattress. And then once I establish a fire, I did a kind of a little mini recon here with this headlamp, and there's a lot of firewood in this area. I had no intention of staying here just because I'm more familiar with the old camp down here, but like I said, I can hear the wind blowing treetops, and I'm not really getting the full effect of that. So this is not a bad spot. I have to find a level spot. I'm on the side of a hill right now. So as far as yesterday's deliverables, you know, I didn't get to film all that. I was scrambling. It was a busy day. If I would have taken time to film everything, I wouldn't be here today. If you didn't finish everything, you were done. You didn't get to progress to the next step of the class. So, trying to remember what we had to do. The bow drill, you know, that was a toughie. I use cedar. What you don't want to have is a lot of heartwood, which is the, you know, like the red-pink color in the wood. But you really don't know till you start cutting into it. So I found 2 dead cedar trees in different locations, just as a backup. Cut them both. And then I mixed and matched and played around and, you know, eventually got it to go. There was a lot of prayer going into that. I went outside and just prayed for the strength to get one more, to at least give me the chance to complete this class. You know, and God helped me with that, and I thanked Him for it. I couldn't have done it without Him. I was absolutely beat. I couldn't tell you how many times I tried the bow drill. I would do it until my arm was ready to fall off. Then I'd go do another skill. Then I would come back to it as soon as I was ready. So that was another thing about filming, is I was back and forth into all these different steps. But the hearthboard I had a lot of heartwood in it, like I said, so it was very hard. So it required a lot of downward pressure to get dust. I tried going to a skinnier spindle once I started wearing down a little bit. It was tough. It was a tough day. Also on the list was 3 hunting tools. So while I was out, you know, I got 2 similar sized poles. I made a spear and a gig. and then a rabbit stick. And my rabbit stick was my baton. My rabbit stick was a lot of things when I was up at class there. Squirrel cooker. I think I got some of that on video. Basically, I had a forked stick. A lot of guys just kind of propped them under a rock at an angle. That's the simplest, easiest way to do it. I had a hook up and a hook down, and I kind of latched it into place. It looked kind of hokey because my main cooker stick was bent a little bit, but whatever, it worked. The primitive trap I'd made was a figure 4, and all the stuff was kind of done on the fly in between the other stuff. So I made a figure 4 deadfall. You know, it wasn't the prettiest one, but again, it's easy to do skills until you're actually pressed to do it. When you have to do it under a certain time limit, then that's when things get real crazy. For 10 feet of cordage, it had to hold 40 pounds. I was looking for cedar bark. Cedar bark that I was crossing was coming off in real puffy, short pieces, and that's great for a bird's nest, and that's what I did use for my bird's nest material for my bow drill. But I kind of wanted longer strips than that for cordage, so I was walking through a field basically to get to the next wood lot, and I kept passing milkweed stalks, which I did a video on. I don't know what order. I know it's not up yet, so I don't know what order the videos are going to be released in. But I'd pass 1 or 2 or 3, then I started passing bundles of them. Before you knew it, there was a whole mess of milkweed. So it was on either side of a fence, actually. So I gathered all I could on one side, and a lot of it still had the downy fluff in the milkweed pods, you know, which is a flash tinder, which probably helped my bird's nest a little bit. I got everything I could off one side of the fence. I walked to where a limb had fallen across the fence and had it pinned just a little bit lower. So I crossed the fence at that point, went down to the other fence row, collecting all the milkweed I could. So I had a bundle of milkweed about like that, and I barely had enough. But I got it done, got it processed okay, and it did hold the 5-gallon bucket of water. So that's great. I was happy about that. I know milkweed's strong, but I didn't have enough to make the diameter I wanted. So it was kind of skinnier than I thought was ideal, but it still worked. Let me think what else we had to do. The green stick fire, that didn't go so well. We learned that skill at winter survival here last February, and you know, the trick to that is a lot of prep, and you're almost making fuzz with your knife. You know, you're making shavings, not really feathers, just kind of shavings. So I had a decent prep of that, and I feather sticked some of the small pieces, and I had a heck of a time getting that to light. I believe the wood I had was locust. I wasn't quite sure. Brad Holman was the guy that actually first showed me that here at class, and he had mentioned that hardwood usually works better than softwood. So when you're looking for hardwood, you're tripping over softwood. So I believe it was locust that I had, but it didn't go so well. Basically, I used my ferro rod to kind of cook the material and just throw so many sparks on it that eventually it dried out and caught. But again, whatever. They sell ferro rods every day. Anything to get through this class at this point. Then the pace count, the navigating around obstacles, the color of the map written course. I think I got one wrong on that. I got one of the colors off. I had the right designation for it, but it was tan instead of purple, which is like I'm sorry. I put tan and it was purple. It was supposed to be an improved area on a map. Other than that, though, I did pretty well. I was happy with how it all went after the fact. When I was in the middle of it, I was scrambling, you know, really digging to get it all done. I think we did 7 knots too. You know, everybody knows 7 knots that's into this thing at all, but it's hard to think of them on the fly like that when your mind's scrambled. But right now, you know, I'm up and dressed for the day. However much more time of night we've got is irrelevant. I'm gonna go get a bird's nest. There's a lot of cedar trees around here, and all I gotta do is use my headlamp to get to one, and then I'm gonna stuff my pockets with cedar bark, and then I'm gonna let that dry it out over the day, or over the morning. As soon as the sun's up, I'm gonna hit the creek looking for a rock. You know, I don't want to have to go back to the bow drill if I don't have to. And then we'll progress with the day. So I'll keep you informed. You know, it'll be hit and miss on all this filming, depending on how scrambled I am for time. Camera is my lowest priority right now.